Hi empaths, welcome to Heart Space Wellness Alliance. Here's my healing room. Let's get started. Hi empaths, welcome back to my healing space. We're going to do another reading. Same format. This might not resonate with you. Don't hold on to it if it doesn't. Don't try to make it work. It might be a message for someone close to you. If so, share it with them. All right, we're going to tune into the vibe of my angelic tuning fork. We're going to invoke the angels, call on guides, compassionate ancestors to give us accurate, useful information. Breathe deeply. Good. Let's pull an angel card from the original angel cards deck to see what we're focusing on in this reading. Responsibility. Responsibility. Where in life are we avoiding responsibility? Are we accepting our responsibility, how we show up, what we're accountable for? What's our relationship to responsibility? Do we shoulder more of the responsibility in a relationship? Is that our tendency? Do we tend to be the more childlike partner in relationships and not take responsibility for our actions, make excuses for how we're showing up instead of really taking feedback in and considering other people's points of view, right? What's our relationship with responsibility? Let's pull some oracle cards from the Ascended Masters Oracle deck by Doreen Virtue. Get some more information about responsibility. So the first card that comes out is choose peace. We have to choose peace. Peace is a choice, right? What is the peaceful path? How can we be responsible for creating peace in relationships? What can we do? And not by, and more importantly, how can we create peace with our relationship within ourself, right? That's important for empaths. We tend to be people pleasers, try to keep the peace without really feeling the peace, right? We actually will stretch ourselves into a pretzel to keep someone from having a reaction or response, a negative response. But in that sense, we're not taking responsibility for our own vibration, right? So how can we step in and create that peace within ourselves? Because if we feel chaos inside, we attract chaos in our external environment. We're creating that experience through emotional resonance. So instead of making peace and by people pleasing, how can we actually create peace? How can we choose peace internally by having boundaries, right? By having standards of behaviors and what we allow within, our circle, what we allow close to us. How can we take a stand for ourselves in that way? And, approach is everything with these things, right? How are we doing so? This might actually be about a significant woman in your life, right? This might be about mother. This might be an issue. This might be an issue inside with your relationship to being a woman, if you're a woman, or a relationship to your feminine essence, right? In general, if you identify as male or female, or neither, or both, there might be a conflict around this, around femininity, around a significant woman in your life, right? Are you coming out of yourself, right? Explaining yourself away, making excuses to appease this person instead of just being truthful because you're afraid of the consequences? Are you dipping out on your responsibility in that way in the relationship, right? A better strategy might be to listen, right? To know how to approach, you learn this in sales, in coaching, you got to understand what the other person wants. You got to get clear about the needs and the wants and the desires of the other person. Instead of escaping and running away out of fear, listen, ask questions. It might be a better approach, right? What are you not hearing? What are you refusing to hear? What are you afraid to hear? This is how we avoid reality. This is how we fragment, and this is how we dissociate. So instead of escaping, how can you just face it and listen from a neutral place without becoming reactive? Are you capable of doing so? And what part of yourself are we looking at here? So let's jump right to the Archetype cards by Carolyn Meese and see what aspect of self we're looking at here. Child wounded. Makes sense, right? We're looking at the wounded child. We're also looking at judge. So when we're looking at wounded child, the light attributes are awakens compassion and desire to serve other wounded children. Awakens compassion and desire to serve other wounded children. Opens the learning path of forgiveness. I think it was in a recent previous video I was saying about the broken bond with mother. And then there's also the emotional enmeshment, right? These attributes create wounding and not a solid sense of self. And that's what a lot of empaths are working through, right? We're learning proper boundaries, and that's responsibility, right? Learning the responsibility of differentiation, of becoming an adult, of becoming an independent person, right? Those relationships, are highly burdened by those who don't know how not to enmesh with others emotionally. We tend to people please, right? We create codependent situations. So having compassion for other people's wounds is important. Having compassion for yourself is important. Some of these tendencies that are happening, your tendency to please others, it's coming from a wounded place. You're on the path to empowerment. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this. So you're on the road, right? Awareness is the first step. Just knowing that, this isn't who I am. This is based on a wounding that just needs some light, and it needs maybe healthier coping strategies and also solid healing around it, right? And then judge comes into play. Balancing justice and compassion, managing the fair distribution of power. And then the shadow attributes are offering only destructive criticism, misusing business, legal, or criminal authority. I'd say that comes into play with responsibility, wouldn't you? So, where are you judging yourself? Where are you being highly critical of yourself, possibly perfectionistic? To the point where you can't see reality. You can't see things lucidly. Either because nobody's perfect, right? And that criticism extends outward. It doesn't stop with you. So you might have impossible standards for others as well. And also, when you have to be perfect and right all the time, you're unwilling to take the responsibility when you're wrong, right? And own that and humble yourself. So, the judge part of you may be protecting the wounded child, right? Maybe there was a part of you as a child that couldn't make mistakes. And now the judge is there criticizing others before they have a chance to criticize you. We need to shift that. This is the pattern we need to shift right now. Let's look at some tarot cards to give us a little more information on that, on this pattern. I'm just using the regular Rider-Waite Tarot deck. A little more information on how we can take responsibility for our lives. Develop a clearer relationship, a clearer view of reality without the prism of our wounding, distorting it. Or what's coming into play here. Just a little more information. So we have the Nine of Swords. This is about nightmares. This is about guilt, remorse, not being able to sleep at night. This is about anxiety, waking up with heart palpitations, right? Whatever it is. Maybe communications and words from the past coming back to haunt us. Maybe we didn't consider the weight of our words that we expressed to somebody, and they had consequences. And now we have to live with them, right? And instead of taking the responsibility by reaching out and apologizing or deciding I'm going to change this situation, we are unable to look at it clearly because of the wound and the judge, right? Where we can't be wrong. So we wake up with guilt. We wake up with anxiety. When we start getting into, in touch with the unconscious and the dream world, all of a sudden it comes to the surface, right? So, And it might have been a longing. There might have been a longing for stability, right? Creating stable relationships, not really knowing how, not having a foundation, not seeing that firsthand in our lives, not having that modeling, so we don't really know how. We're still kind of experimenting. You know, this can come into play with like gaming, player dynamics, right, in relationship. When someone plays games, it's because they really don't know how to be effective in that area. So they play games with people. That can come back to haunt them. And that is not taking responsibility, right? That's being deceptive. That's based on wounding. And it doesn't help to judge, because then it's something you can't face, you know, except that it might be time to discard that tendency, or to not put up with it, right? Not put up with it anymore. Because it might be a focus issue, right? Because the truth is, you know, there's a world of possibilities out there. You know, nothing is really off limits. It's just when you get tunnel visioned, you don't see all of the provision, right? You sense the lack. You get so focused on the things that you can't have or sense you can't have, and that pushes them away further, right? So if you just open up and expand your view and see there's a whole world out there, you don't have to put all your focus and attention and eggs in one basket. And you don't have to manipulate people, right? You can be a good loser when the answer is no, particularly in a relationship, because that brings up all our wounding, doesn't it? And this can also be like about, you know, having all these options and making it challenging to make a decision, right? Because this is about juggling different options. And with players, right? If you're dealing with somebody who's playing games with your heart, you sense that, you know, maybe they're doing the hot and cold dynamics, they're breadcrumbing, you know, look up all these things. There's all these tactics. It's to put you on hold, right? To keep your interest peaked, you know, to trigger your emotional responses, and to keep you engaged when they don't really have either anything substantial to offer. They don't want to take responsibility for an actual commitment or solid relationship. What they actually are trying to do is keep you engaged as well as others, you know, other people. They're dealing with other people too. So they're juggling options. And instead of putting the responsibility in their hands, you take the responsibility for where you're willing to put your attention, what you're willing to put up with, because you're training them how to treat you. And there's part of you that may be wounded and believes that's all you deserve, but that's not true. It's not true. So don't give them the decision and the option. You're not an option, right? You're not an option. You know or you don't if you want to be with somebody, and you know what you want, right? So if you sense you're being played like that, you make the decision by not being juggled, right? Don't be an option. You deserve more than that. In fact, when you take responsibility for your own happiness, this is what's possible for you. Complete fulfillment. 10 of Cups, emotional fulfillment in life, right? There's a partner out there waiting who's willing to take responsibility. There's part of you that's wounded that may not be attracted to a partner who is not emotionally unavailable, right? If someone comes in and they're emotionally available, sometimes that's less attractive to those of us who have a wounding, right? Or a codependent tendency where we tend to isolate because we're afraid of getting too enmeshed and dealing with those consequences. The best thing we can do is just take responsibility for our own healing. This is what's waiting, right? Complete fulfillment. But we create this for ourselves. We have to create it for ourselves. We have to make difficult decisions sometimes of walking away when we're not being valued, right? if something's unfulfilling to you and it doesn't look like it's changing and the other person isn't really willing to compromise, sometimes we just have to walk away and take care of ourselves. It's hard for empaths. It feels selfish to take care of our own needs. Couldn't be further from the truth, though. We're just training ourselves, right? When you take care of yourself, you help others do the same. You show that. You embody that, and you're modeling that for other people. And when you take away the power of devaluing you from somebody, they might learn something. That's not really the point for you, is it? It's like, that's not the right thing to focus on, but you really have to model. You really do have to teach others your value sometimes. It's not fair, but they're wounded too. That's why they're doing it, right? Anyone that's doing the player tactics and things, they're not doing that from a healthy place of self-esteem. They're doing it because they don't believe they have inherent value or worth to offer you. So we can have compassion for that, but still take good care of ourselves, right? And not fall into the trap of making excuses for them and then prolonging the issue, prolonging the relationship that's not even real, right? It's based on this illusion, this smoke and mirrors. So let's look at, and ultimately choosing peace for yourself. Choosing peace for yourself, right? Because if this is who you want to be, right, or who you're seeking, you can't play with the players. They're much better at the game than you are. They're not really looking for a relationship, right? They're not looking for partnership. So you don't fix the mirror, right? You don't try to fix them and convince them. You work with the law of attraction by working within, healing your wounds so that you're magnetized and you're magnetizing people that are seeking the same thing you are. And sometimes we're low-key not looking for relationships. So we tell ourselves that's what we're looking for, but we sometimes choose these entanglements instead that are based on attachment as opposed to authentic connection. And that's not to judge, right? Don't let the judge come into play and just say, oh, you're so stupid. And have compassion for yourself. It's based on a wound. Let's see what crystal. I'm currently shuffling healing crystals, playing cards, and the crystal playing cards. And we're going to see what crystal will help us with this lesson. Yeah, it's too many. We only need just one, maybe. Let's see what crystal is meant to help us or could help us by tuning into its vibration. That doesn't mean you have to purchase one, right? You could just look at pictures and tune in to the energy. Empaths are great at that. Just embody the resonance of that. What crystal? Green calcite. You know, healing the emotions, bringing balance to the heart chakra, releasing. Green calcite is absorbent. Calcites tend to absorb. They're like psychic sponges, just like you and I, if you resonate as an empath. So putting a calcite on your heart can actually absorb a lot of the trauma, the wounding, the pain that you're currently carrying. It's great to do a whole calcite layout at the end of the day if you're an empath. My friend Krista Mitchell taught me that. And it's really true. It's just, you can't go wrong with a good crystal layout if you're an empath. Doing one for each chakra. They come in all colors, right, of the chakras. So, yeah. And it's interesting that, we're talking about choosing peace. And this is about emotional balance, right? Feeling the peace within you, within your heart center. Feeling emotionally stable. Taking proper care of self. Taking the responsibility of properly caring for yourself, right? So that you come from an emotionally balanced place. You're not pulled out. You're not triggered. Healing all those wounds, and it will never be perfect. There's no destination. It's a continual process. But once you get to a certain place, it's much harder to trigger you, right? Or to hook you in emotionally. That's kind of what we're looking for here, right? Finding other people that have made progress on their paths of healing their wounds that are similar to yours. Let's go to the Crazy Sexy Love Notes by Chris Carr, this beautiful deck, and have one last thought. One last thought, last thought that we can hold on to about taking responsibility in relationships for our own healing, for our own peace of mind, and in order to find fulfillment. What's one last message that we can take with us? To help us integrate, understand, what can we focus on and carry forward with us to remind us of this lesson, this message about responsibility for our own emotional well-being and our own peace of mind. Something bigger is on the way. Something more fulfilling. Something that won't compromise your inner peace. Open to it. Stay open to it. Don't tunnel vision around one person that happened to hook you in and trigger you with games. Whatever the message, however this resonates for you, right? Expand your view, expand your field of vision. That can do a lot of healing in and of itself. Can you feel the wingspan of your ancestry, those compassionate ancestors behind you? You were their hope, right? You're carrying the best of all your ancestors with you into the future. How can you honor them by utilizing all of that richness? Something bigger is on its way to you, and you're moving towards it as you expand your view and commit to your own peace. Take responsibility for that. I hope this message resonated. If it wasn't for you, maybe it's for somebody you know and love. Share it with them. Check out the description for other social media platforms that we can connect on and how to reach out to me for personal contact. All right, so many blessings to you, empath. Have a great day.